Right, so in this video we're going to be showing how to install the ASI controller into your SurRon electric motorcycle. You see here we got two different versions. So we got the SurRon X, which is the off-road version, and we got the SurRon L1E, which is the road legal version. So here on the SurRon X we have the BAC4000 installed here, paired with original 60 volts SurRon battery, okay? And then on the other bike here, it's a road legal bike, and then we have the larger, more heat-sink BAC8000 controller that can run with a 60 volts, 72 volts battery. You just need to let us know what battery you're running there. We can send you the motor profile. And then here, this is the kit that comes when you buy from EBMX. It comes with, this is the BAC4000, BAC8000. They're pretty much exactly the same here. So motor phase extension wires, you're gonna need them. You're gonna have some heat shrink that comes with the kit, bolts here to bolt them straight to your motor wires. They're color coded, so you just follow the same colors you're gonna find in your motor. Here, this is the harness, plug and play, so you pretty much remove your original SurRon controller, plug this one here. The display, this is pretty much straightforward as well. So just 3 bolts, you're gonna bolt this to your handlebar. If you're doing the battery bypass, if you're running the 60 volts SurRon battery, you need to do some modification to your battery, because the original battery management system will think it's too much power. You're gonna be cutting, thinking there's something wrong. So battery bypass kit. These are the tools you're gonna need to perform this job. So you're gonna need a heat gun, maybe a hair dryer, depending on the hair dryer, hex keys. So you're gonna be using mostly number 5, 4, and 3. It's also a good idea to have the ball end here, because sometimes you have in a funny corner, you can't go straight on. This is very important tool as well. Socket, 10mm socket, 8mm socket. So for the BAC8000, you're gonna need a 10mm socket for the battery connection and for the phase wire extension. And then on the BAC4000, pretty much exactly the same thing here with the phase wire, but on this end, it's a smaller controller, so it's 8mm socket here for the battery terminals. And side cutters is good for when you're removing the original SurRon controller, the SurRon display, so this is gonna come handy. This is just to do some nice finishing on a heat shrink in some connectors that we're gonna be showing there as well. Phillips, you're gonna need a Phillips number 2, Phillips number 1, so either one or other is gonna do the job. Maybe some like a flathead. And if you're doing the battery bypass, you're gonna need a crimping tool like this. So just to crimp the copper lug, this guy here, you're gonna need something to crush this thing. It's very, very thick, very hard to crush. All right, so that's it. So let's start removing the original SurRon controller from the bike and installing the BAC4000 to this bike here. Right, so let's start taking things apart. So let's start by de-energizing the bike. First, we're gonna be removing the battery. We need to actually access all the wiring behind this plate as well. So we need to do this. We're just gonna drop the air switch like you normally would when you replace swapping batteries. So disconnect here. By the way, you're not gonna use this anymore. Okay, so this is talking to the original SurRon controller and the display. So you won't need this anymore, right? All right, so before you pop this 5mm bolts here, so we're actually gonna be removing the controller first here, okay? So you're gonna need 4mm, so I got 4mm here. So we're gonna go remove this guy. And maybe you can keep the bolts here inside this tray. Kinda handy. I keep all the bolts here during installation. Yeah, another 4mm here. And now we're gonna need a 3mm to pop the top ones here. Need to pop these 2 ones here on top. And you're also gonna need to drop the bash guard here. Okay, so the bash guard, the same here. So it's the same as the top one here. So it's 5mm here for the bash guard as well. We need to access the motor phase wires because we need to put some motor extensions. So you don't need to lose this one, but it's actually better you don't force too much. So let's go to the other side, do the same thing here. Just lose a little bit here. Yeah. Gonna drop it. So this is very normal if this happens to you. Okay, so it's just a little clip. You can bend back again and put it back in position here, okay? We're gonna need to lose all this plastic guard here as well. 3, 4, okay. Number 4. Remove this plastic. So there's also 2 bolts here. 4 as well. Right. So here, now it's the time we're going to actually be opening this plate here. We're going to have access to all the connectors. They're hiding behind here. There's like little space between, like inside the frame here, so they jammed all the spare connections there. Right, so number 5 again, 5mm, and 5mm on the other side as well. Right, so here we're going to show from the top. We're opening here. Yep, cool. And then we're going to find many connectors. So we're actually going to be disconnecting the motor controller. So you just maybe follow from the bottom here. Maybe it might be easy to show from here. Right, so it'll be 3 connectors. 1 goes to the display, 1 goes to the hall sensors, the motor hall sensors, and the other one is for the electrical stuff in the bike, okay? So here, press this little tab here. You press the tab and release the lock, so you can pull them apart. It might be hard. This is actually okay. 3-pin, okay. That goes to the display. So now we have this squarish connector. Then same thing. You press the tab and then pull it. The more connections you have, the harder the connector will be, okay? Just be careful, don't go too hard and pull it too hard and damage connectors, okay? So same thing here, you press the tab and you release the lock. I can actually hear in this one here. Tick, tick. Yeah, hold it. Cool. I normally put my hands here, rest my hand against the back and pull this one here. So we have the power wires for the battery here. It's de-energized, don't worry, okay? And then we're gonna have the 3 motor phase wires here. Okay, so we need to access them. Gonna be removing this guard, the plastic guard here, because it's a bit annoying now. Okay, so we're just gonna go here, need the PHILLIPS. I recommend people be very careful when they remove all the SurRon stuff, because some people, they're like, oh, I'm never gonna use this again. It's good to keep your SurRon parts in case one day you're gonna sell the bike or troubleshooting something. It's always good to have that. We're gonna start disconnecting these wires here. I would go for these big ones here, the battery ones, so you can drop it and do these ones properly. Number 5. And then you just put all these bolts back here. It'll be handy one day. And they actually have the yellow, green, blue in case you want to pull it, install it back one day. Yellow, green, blue, positive, negative. So everything is nicely labeled. Right, so now we're actually going to be removing the display. We don't need the original display anymore. So we have to remove the connector that's actually here inside with all these messy wires here, okay? So we're gonna be using, I think it's 4mm here on top. Yeah, 4mm. Remove these bolts. Put all bolts inside the little tray so you don't lose. Right. So now you have access to remove the wires, and that's when you're gonna need your cutters. Ta-da! So Just gonna go here, careful, don't cut your wire. Cut that one. Cut that one. All right, so here you see the connectors. Same thing. Press the lock here. Pull one. And then remove the second one here. Here. So the rod legal display, it's a slightly different connector. So they did in this way, so it's just so they're coded differently. So you see here, road legal bike with the indicator lights. So that's the wires for the indicator lights, this here. And this is for the off-road display. But they're pretty much the same. It's just so the harness and things are different. So people don't connect the wrong things to the wrong harness. So next step, I'm gonna be removing the grips. So this, it can be really hard in some bikes, it can be really easy in some bikes, okay? So if it's really stuck, you can use the air compressor here, like you just pump some air here, like really hard. You can put some water here. Phillips screwdriver here. You have to lose, there's a little Phillips bolt here. So you're just gonna have to lose it, and then you're gonna feel it. Gone. Right, so here you have some exposed terminals here. So we actually want to protect them from, it could be a lot of water when people wash the bikes. You don't want that. So you can actually mess up with all the wiring harness because there are some common ground wires here. So basically we're going to need some heat shrink. I'll use glue, double wall heat shrink. It's got glue inside here. And we're going to need a heat gun for this. So 24mm heat shrink goes on the square larger connector, and you see it's pretty long past the connector, not just the front, because water can go in this way, so I need to cover here and there. All right, it's a bit tight fit, but it does fit. Okay, 24mm, and yeah, it's got hot glue inside, so it sticks a little bit. Like I went far enough, so this thing wraps around here nicely. You can push a little bit more. The same 24mm, it actually shrinks pretty well as well. All right, so cardboard here. Be careful not to melt the wires here at the back. Right, so what I do here, I go and pinch the end here and let it cool for a little bit. And when it's a little bit cooler, you just use your hands. Just pinch with your fingers here. It's a bit hot. Ooh. Yeah, so you just pinch. So no water will go in any direction here. All right, so we do the same here in this one. Cardboard backing. This one, you only need to seal the front. So go here. Touch here the ends, just so they're very nicely watertight here. 3 connectors used to be connected to the controller. There's 2 connectors here. We're still gonna be using for the ASI controller, but this triangular connector here, it's no longer gonna be used. We're gonna be protecting this as well with a heat shrink, glue heat shrink. So you need to seal both sides, because this connector also can drip water through the lock here, the locking pin. Perfectly sealed here and here as well. Right, so now we're gonna connect the wiring harness. So see, you have like 2 sides. This side here, it goes connected to the motor controller, and this side goes connected to the bike. Okay, so the white connector is a square shape, so you're gonna be connecting here. It's a bit hard to connect. Okay, so you're gonna be pushing. This thing needs to go all the way in. Okay, so you're gonna be pushing. It's really hard. Right, so you see it's all the way pushed in, all the white bit is actually inside the black. And then here, we're gonna go for the rectangular shape connector. Same thing here. This is a lot easier. And then this go and clicks. All right, so this bit is done. So here we're gonna be extending the motor phase wires, these 3 wires here. And we have the motor phase wire extensions here that comes in the kit. So we're going to start with the yellow one. So comes with a heat shrink, bolts and nuts, everything you're going to need there. You're going to need a heat gun here as well. So basically the way we do, I put this round thing facing the bottom of the lug, and then I put the motor lug here. So this is the older SurRon motor. So this is really stiff, really hard to move. The newer motors, they're more flexible, but this is, yeah, you're gonna have to use a bit of a force here. So you see that we're putting the non-lock on top, so it's less bulky. So you see like it's gonna be nice and flush here, and all the bulky bits are gonna be facing in. I'm gonna get the 10 mil, and gonna get the 4 mil Allen keys. I'm gonna bolt them together. Nice and straight. So now I'm going to do the same for the green and for the blue. I'm going to put all the heat shrink here. Right, so I'm going to be using a heat gun. So now just let it cool down a little bit because the heat shrink is very soft still. And then you're gonna be kind of forcing this thing a little bit back in, especially with this very hard wires here. So we just wanna let it cool down. We're gonna be connecting the battery connector here. So we have the red and the black, that's all from the SurRon harness. And we also have here from the other side of the harness, we have this little green connector. It goes connected to the negative. It actually says controller ground here. So it goes together like that on top. So let's just start here. There's a positive and negative here on the controller. I don't know if you can see. Negative, positive. Don't need to go crazy here, otherwise you might break the post inside the controller. All right, so here you put this one first. And now I'm going to be connecting the MX150 connectors. Big one goes to the big connector. And connect, you're gonna hear a click, click. You're gonna connect the other one. You're also gonna feel or hear a click. Yeah, right, so now we're gonna be mounting the display to the handlebar. So here you see there's like a one bolt, another bolt, and another bolt here. So these are like 3 mil hex keys, you see them here. And this one is, we're gonna need a 2.5 mil hex keys. All right, so we're just gonna be mounting to the handlebar. So some handlebars, it might be easier to put a cable facing this way or the other way. So it just depends on your handlebar. Remember, this is plastic. Don't go too far. You can push, but like it, yeah, there's the best thing is actually like feel the display here. When it's tight enough, you stop there. Okay, it is pretty hard to move now. I'm actually applying quite a lot of force here. So now let's go for the little speed selector, on and off menu display, 2.5 mil. So I'm just gonna go here somewhere. You want this thing close to your thumbs. On the Rod Lego SurRon, you're actually gonna have a bulky, the indicators, everything here. So you need to be mounting right here, more like in the middle of the handlebar, which is a bit of annoying. So once this is nice and tight, you stop there. Don't keep pushing. You might crack plastic if you go too far. Then put your grips back in. So you can select here. Right, so here, coming from the wiring harness, you're gonna have this 5-pin green connector. And the display, you also got a 5-pin connector. So they actually have, if you come close here, you're gonna have a little arrow, and you align them both together and push it in. They're gonna feel nice and easy to push it in. If it's really hard, you're doing something wrong, align them together. All right, so now let's push this plate back in place. So make sure all the connectors are here, you're not like forcing or breaking anything, crushing anything. So just make sure everything's nice and very well placed inside. 5 mil here. All right, so you have the battery power leads here,
and you have this connector here, which is actually a communication between the battery management system and the SurRon motor controller display. They're all connected via communication cable here. Okay, so there's no longer need for this. So you can actually pack this thing back inside here because you're not going to need anymore. But if you still have the 60 volts battery, you can actually leave it connected. Okay, because at 24mm heat shrink won't fit here. You probably need something a lot bigger, or maybe like a silicone plumbing tape, something they can wrap around here, make it nice and protected, because you have battery voltage coming here in one of these pins. So yeah, so if you have 60 volts, plug it on top. If you don't have it, maybe leave it hanging like this, never like that, and see if you can put it inside the bike. Right, if you have a 72 volts battery, if you're definitely not using the 60 volts anymore, some people be crazy enough, they want to cut this thing off. No, I don't need this anymore, I'm never going to put the SurRon stuff back in. Well, yeah, you could technically cut this thing, but just be very careful. I don't know, like as an electrician, I would never recommend having so many exposed wires, including battery voltage there. I would put heat shrink in individual wires and then a proper heat shrink around the whole thing. I don't recommend it. See this cable here? Ideally we're going to have this cable protected inside here, facing in like that, nicely protected here, because this is battery negative. Right, so we're going to leave this controller hanging for a little bit, so just carefully hanging there. It's fine for a little bit, just while we're doing some tests. So now we're actually going to be putting this bash guard back in place, because we're going to be lifting the bike here. We want to have the rear wheel freely spinning during the test, just in case we turn it on, something goes crazy. Like, it's just a safety thing we need to be doing. Going to need the 5mm, and then we're going to be putting this thing back again. So push the little connector umbrella thing back in. Like I say, this wires here, an older SurRon motor, is pretty hard, so it'll be a bit hard pushing back in. Same on the other side. Now I'm going to be lifting the bike. So now we're going to be doing the battery bypass. We're going to be opening your SurRon battery. You're going to be installing this bypass lead. We're actually bypassing from the connector here to the cells. So we're going to need a crimper for this job. Don't try to use anything else. Okay, there's a hydraulic crimper or mechanical crimper like this, but you borrow from someone. Don't try to do a dodgy thing. Some people will try to solder. It's up to you. Alrighty, so 2.5mm. So we're going to be starting pulling this thing apart. Please always use eye protection for electrical jobs like this. Okay, this is pretty safe, I would say, but just in case, protect your eyes. I always protect my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 bolts. All right, so this is the front of the battery. You're gonna look the battery sideways. Connector goes up like this. So what we need to do is get this black wire that comes from the connector here, and we're gonna be installing the bypass right there. So ideally, you try to cut as long as possible here. Try not to cut right there. I would normally cut right here, like this. So here you see we have 2 ends now. So this, it's not energized, it just goes to the connector. And this bit is actually connected, still connected to the battery through the BMS. So we need to we have actually in the kit, we have 2 heat shrink sets. So one goes here. You're gonna insulate this thing. And you're gonna use your cardboard. Now we're going to be stripping this carefully, just enough to go here. Okay, so it's about that much. Right, so now we're going to be put it inside here and crimping. And ask for a friend to help because you're going to need 2 strong hands here. Right. Right, so now you get the heat shrink here. Slide over the top. Make sure this thing is really well crimped. Look, forcing here. It's totally fine. So now I'm going to put a heat shrink. And now we're going to be connecting this to the battery terminals here. You can leave this hanging, it's not energized, so there's no problem if you touch the positive, it's fine, it's just going to the connector. And just be careful, don't be too rough here because this is the balancing connectors. Don't be too rough resting and bumping into this. So now I'm going to be removing this glue. All right, so now we're going to be bolting this to the battery negative, the battery bus bar here. So just be very careful as you're doing this. I always try to keep them always on this side here on the negative. I don't want to be doing one and maybe have another one possibly touching there, because once you hook up the first one, this all connected to negative. It'll be a massive short if this lands here accidentally. And also you don't want this for any chance touching anything here. It might be like a short, it damage your BMS. You're not gonna like to see what happens. Another thing is, so this BMS, it's always live, it's got a little computer, it's logging every event that happens. So you don't wanna be completely removing it from the battery. So I always try to leave one connector, one wire bolted to the battery terminal. So I would normally just do one by one, okay? So let's start here. So Phillips number 2, it fits really nice here. You might get away with the Phillips number 1, but there's a risk you might be stripping the head. Okay, I'm gonna go here. Right. So just pick any lug. And then this new lug goes in the bottom, because this is going to be carrying all the current, discharge current, and little charging current. This will be like 10 amps from now on, and this will be whatever power you put here. So just going to go here and go back again. All right, so now I'm going to do the second one. So now there's an all live, connect to the negative. So just pick whatever cable. So you can zoom in a little bit. So yeah, just hold these 2 wires here, and you remove it. All right, so now you're gonna get and then now here, so for this one, it's actually a bit too tight to go with the screwdriver here. So what we're going to be doing, I'm actually going to send this here first. Be careful with the BMS. Pick up and go like this. So you have a better access here. Right? So I'm going to go here. Righty, so now it's the moment we're going to be putting some non-corrosive silicone. Okay, in Australia we call this roof and gutter. So it's like non-corrosive silicone. You can't use the bathroom silicone, the kitchen and bathroom silicone. They're different. They'll be attacking the heat shrink and some of the plastics. They're not very suitable. So we're just going to go here and then just put heaps. Okay, any color doesn't matter, that's just for you. So this is pretty much just stopping wires and connectors and things from moving with vibration, because this bike vibrates quite a lot. It's going to go off road, so just going to make some big blobs here. Okay, and that's it, done. You see there? Doesn't have to be super beautiful. This is just to stop from moving and losing. Okay, it's fine. So just make sure your rubber seal is actually in here. Okay, so like, yeah, sometimes it will drop when you remove the lid, but that's it. And then here's just gonna find a, you know, just get this thing closed nicely here. So just find a room for this extra cable and happy days. And then we put all these bolts back together. All right, so that's it. So when you tighten up, remember you're pushing metal against plastic. If you go too far, you're going to be cracking the plastic. So just, and you're also going to be biting this rubber seal too hard. So just try to put just enough torque. That's what I do here. Just go with the little finger here, not too much. That's very, very firm. That's it. You got a bypass battery. Beautiful. Aha! Let's put on the bike. Right, so now you lean forward here, hold the front of the bike down, and then on level 1, you start twisting the throttle here. Don't go too crazy on the throttle because it's unloaded and the field weakening will kick in. It will be like too much power. Try to increase the RPM, and then the motor is actually, there's a massive centrifugal force there. The RPM is just going to go nuts, and then magnets inside, they're actually going to pretty much explode inside the motor, like, and then exploding mechanically explode, damage everything. You might pop your tire because there's a lot of centrifugal force here. These tires are not rated for that. Yeah, so then just come here closely. So here we actually have, okay, level 1, it goes up to 1, 2, 3. You can change this to 5 levels or 9 levels here. So here is how you navigate. So you go like a plus and minus between like a mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. But if you want to change this, if you want something between level 1 and level 2, if you want more increments, you're just going to click here on menu, double click, and then we actually want to go to this second settings here, basic settings. So to jump over there to the second tab, you're going to be clicking here, just click power button, and then now you're going to be going to advanced settings, and then M to enter, and then down, M, and then we'll go 1919. So 1, 9, 1, 9, enter. So now we're going to be changing this. So just keep on going down, 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 down. Don't worry about anything here. Next page, enter, down, down. And then assist levels, you're going to change. You're going to be enter here, like M. And then you're going to be changing to 5 levels or 9 levels. There's another option here, but don't worry about. So it's either between 3, 5, and 9. 9, you're going to have it can be nice, but it can be annoying because every time you turn the bike off and on, it goes back to level 1. So you need to go tech to level 9, which can be annoying for some people. Let's just leave it on level 5 just for now. We press M and go exit. And that's it. So now you see we have level 4, level 5. Level 5, we have the same power as level 3 had before. So it's just, you have this new increments here. Now we have the number 4 between you know, you just have this extra modes now. And another thing that people don't know is that if you hold the minus button, it's actually walking speed. So just show the bike. I'm going to be holding minus. It's called walk mode. So it's basically you want to push the bike upstairs or on your ute, something. You don't want to go throttle and go and take off. So you just hold it. It goes up to 3 kilometers an hour. Yeah, 3 kilometers an hour is a reasonable speed. 4 can be a little bit too fast for some things. So I just tuned to level to 3 kilometers an hour. It's very handy. If you're riding the bike at night time and this display is too bright, you can just hold plus, and actually it will be like turning the brightness of the display down a little bit. You might not be able to see this in the camera. It might be handy for some people. One thing nice to mention, the battery meter here no longer works accurately. Okay, so like this, you might have some numbers here, it might be delayed. For some reason, once you do the bypass, this thing, it gets a bit delayed. It's not very responsive. So you might be showing like a 60%, you might be down to 50. So it's just a little bit behind. All right, I'm gonna turn it off. And then we disconnect power here just to be safe. We're just gonna drop the air switch. They call air switch in China. Right, so now we're gonna be bolting the controller onto the bike. So just make sure this green negative wire, it's nice and safe tacking here in the middle. Make sure it's not hanging outside here or anywhere near sharp edges. All right, so if it's too hard to fit back in, you might be dropping this bash guard and just reorganizing the phase wires down here, but it should be fine. Let's just try the way it is here, okay? Right, so you're gonna receive a bag with 4 bolts and nuts. These are actually to go here, here on the other side, and here. 1, 2. So we're gonna be bolting it. BAC8000, it's a little bit harder to put it in because it's a bigger controller. The cables are up high here. You might be touching some connectors here, and sometimes we might be removing the tilt sensor, which is right here. It's a little box right there. So you can remove this. It's no longer used with this ASI controller. So yeah, and then we have free room to put all these cables right there. Okay, cool. So let's just bend this thing right there and go, and leave your bolts ready right here. So let's try. So you can start putting the bolts on top, on the bottom, or whatever you feel more comfortable. And now I'm going to come on this side and bolt here. You bolt into the second hole. You thread the nut. Yeah, it's pretty much all done. That's very solid, not going anywhere. We're nearly finishing with the bike. So all we're gonna be doing here is actually undoing this bolt here, holding this cable organizer here. And then we're gonna be using the 3mm Allen key here. And then once this thing is in, we're gonna be zip tying here. Just gonna be zip tying here. I like the idea of keeping this cable around here instead of running them through this gap here, because the throttle and everything runs at an angle if you put inside there. I like the idea of keeping them right here. And if you could keep the display cable behind all these cables here, like keep the display cable facing out so it's not rubbing against the aluminum here, it's even better. Inside the display cable we have battery voltage, so we don't want to be rubbing against the aluminum. You might want to be doing the same thing here too. And remember, this wiring harness, it's only intended to use with the APT screen. If you plug egg right at display, massive problems. You're gonna burn your comms, your RX, TX in your controller. You don't want that. So if you want to be replacing, you need to get a new harness from us, or maybe you need to modify your harness, but do not plug any of the screen different to your APT. It'll be a completely different wiring pin out. Don't even try, you're gonna regret, okay? That's it, it's nice and neat. Good to go, turn it on. Right, so let's turn it on again. Ignition key. Turn the display back on. Remove your plastic film so you have a nice new screen. Kickstand up, and then you can twist. If kickstand is down, it's not going to work, okay? It's for safety. Kickstand down, nothing. Very important, some people might freak out. The bike doesn't work, the bike doesn't work. Kickstand is down. Cool, so this concludes the video. You're good to go. Ha! Right, so this is my favorite part of the video. It's actually the power demonstration. So here's the original SurRon battery. We set to full power here, level 3 or level 5 or level 9, whatever we have on your display, and not touching the brakes at all. So let's see what this thing is capable of. It actually breaks traction pretty easily. That's the way I tune here. 3, 2, 1. And I didn't touch the brakes. Didn't touch the brakes at all. 3, 2, 1. Gee, I think the sticker. Oh yeah! That's it.